Thank you, Convener. Good afternoon. Mr Salmond. I have a lot of questions to ask around both the judicial review and the ministerial code, but in this section, just one follow-up question, if I may. And as a follow-up to the question that was put to you at the very start by Margaret Mitchell, who was asking you about the role of the Crown Office. And you referred to the fact that the Crown Office had asked the Parliament to redact part of your written evidence to this committee. You have been not just First Minister of Scotland, you've also been twice a member of the House of Commons for substantial periods, and indeed you are a member of the Privy Council. In your experience, would the Crown Prosecution Service in England ever have asked a committee of the House of Commons to redact evidence that it had published in the same fashion? And if it had, what do you think would have been the response of any Speaker of the House of Commons to that request?
Well, the straight answer is no, they wouldn't, and the normal response from certainly the House of Commons, but any Parliament, I would argue, would be to reject any such overtures and say the Parliaments are there to serve the people, and the Prosecution Service, whether it be the Crown Office or the Crown Prosecution Service in England, is there under the same obligation. Obviously, the Parliament shouldn't be interfering in the independence of the prosecution services, but neither should the Prosecution Service be presuming to interfere in the legitimate business of the Parliament. Now, to say these things, as Lord Hope did this morning, and I listened to him on the radio, is not to undermine the position of the Crown Office. On the contrary, to say these things is to say, look, that institution should not be doing that, and therefore what is it in the leadership of the Crown Office is deficient that's drawing itself in to what is properly the political arena. You know, to say these things is to protect the institutional framework, to make it more robust, to say that the things have to be properly done, not improperly done. I mean, before I came to the committee, and the convener kindly allowed me to read a statement into the record, that I received a letter of what I was and wasn't allowed to talk about. And according to that letter, I'm not allowed to talk about areas of my written evidence that were submitted in good faith to this committee, which are easily available online in reputable journals for anybody to see, which are wide part of political debate, and are accepted as that. The idea that the only place that can't be discussed is in a parliamentary committee is the direct opposite of what should be true. Parliamentary committees should actually be able to discuss things that cannot be discussed elsewhere because of proper exercise of parliamentary privilege and the duties of members of Parliament. And therefore, it seems to be an extraordinary position, and clearly something is wrong. Whether it's institutional, as Ms Mitchell suggested, or whether it's personnel, as I suggest, is a matter for the Parliament to decide. But clearly it's an intolerable situation and should not be allowed to continue.
Okay, thank you. And these are issues we will need to consider in due course and not necessarily for this inquiry, but it's very helpful to have your response. Thank you, Convener.